And here we are live, Illini guys. We are doing Eye on the Illini, talking about I guess, really nothing short of a fantastic win against Nebraska. What a bunch of just fantastic uh, plays by the Illini, especially down the stretch. Brad, why don't you walk us through kind of some of your thoughts walking out of the game here?
I thought, um, man, I guess I would say that I thought Illinois showed so much resilience in this game. I thought that was the key. I thought this team showed that they can handle failure and come back, right? I mean, because bad things happen in games. I mean, you see this happen all the time where people will have we have a fumble and then they can't come back from it, or have a interception or whatever it is, a misplay on defense, a bad call. This team bounced back. I thought the halftime call, the no miss face mask in the first half was it was a 10 to 14 point swing potentially if that the way that turned out. And yet Illinois handled it. They bounced back. They kept grinding and battling. I thought also, you have, the Hank Beatty fumble, and then he comes back with 3 returns for 60 yards. Bryant and Franklin both have drops in key spots, come back, make plays. Pat Bryant continues to be one of the best wide receivers in the country. So you look at that, and I think Xavier Scott just makes play after play. They didn't, Rayola throws the ball downfield. They a couple blown coverages, short memories, right back at it the next, and then they shut him down the rest of the game. This is what you want from a team. This is what good teams do. They can handle adversity, battle through it, and find a way. I thought Luke Altmaier is fantastic. He looks like the Luke Altmaier we wanted to see when he arrived at Illinois. He's just been great. There's not enough superlatives for how good he was played. He maybe had one play where he gets sacked from behind and fumbles. That's really it. I mean, that's his bad play for the day. So pretty impressive on the road in front of Nebraska's 90,000 people and their 400th consecutive sellout.
I'm going to start with just kind of like a little downer, then I'll be uplifting again. And Henry, today was tough for him. I know he's leaving tonight. For those who don't know, his sister passed away, and for him to be out there battling, for a line and win, and they've made strides. I mean, you go back to where they were last year. This is, in my opinion, a really good Nebraska team. I think they're going to go to a bowl game. I think they're good enough. But kudos to him because, he made adjustments and his team played well. This game to me I was concerned about so many Illinois things. Brad, I don't know what name you call them, but Illinois finds a way to do Illinois things. For example, the fumble with Luke Altmaier, I thought, man, this is bad. This is going to go south. And then the one thing that they didn't need at the end of the game was a penalty, a late hit. And I'll be honest, if I'm a Nebraska fan, I'm hot because that's a call that Illinois got. Typically, they don't get calls like that. They just don't because it goes against them, and then they find a way to lose the game. I like the different running sets that they gave Caden Fagan. I think if they could open up holes like that, or running to the left and right, set him up the middle, I think he could be a 100-yard rusher every game. You're not just going to run the ball up the middle in the Big Ten all the time. You can get away with it a couple times, but you saw how effective he is, and he's so hard to bring down an open field. And this is what Illinois brought Brett Bielema in for, guys. They brought him in to compete, win games like this, not get blown out. They've beaten 2 ranked teams this year. They beat Kansas, they beat Nebraska. Now when they go to Penn State, that's house money to me.
Yeah, I thought this was a really a time that we could look at Luke Altmaier and say when the bad things happened, he elevated his game, didn't let it bother him. I thought that was fantastic. And I really thought that the continual pounding of the ball, we really saw a Brett Bielema type of game where the running game became more effective down the stretch. And I think that's a really testament to the offensive line because they really fixed a lot of stuff because that was a good set of defensive tackles that they did that against. And I also think you saw they got the ball to Fagan where he can do more with it. The only thing I get frustrated by is when you have Altmaier have to read and hand out off the ball to Fagan, who's standing flat-footed. after a second and a half. I just think that puts, and I've said this, you guys have had to listen to me for years, but I've said this since, back when Juice Williams had to do it, and I just like to hit the hole a little quicker than what that standing option does. But I thought Fagan did wonderful. And even, Valentine, when he came in, he gave him a little bit of wiggle and something to think about out there. It was really a team effort.
Yeah, I think the running backs did a great job. I think having that depth, having McCray, Lawfrey had a nice run. McCray had some pounding runs. Fagan, Valentine, as we mentioned, those are all guys that, every guy did a great job. Every guy had their moment. And I think you mentioned this. We've talked about this for a while. Illinois is going to have to eventually be able to run the ball earlier in the game, I think. But they keep pounding the rock and they keep wearing teams down. This is the fourth game in a row where at the end of the game, Eastern's a different animal, obviously, but the other three games, they just wore that team down. In the fourth quarter, they're able to run the football consistently, gashing them for big gains over and over and over. That's Brett Bielema football. When they are able to run the ball in the first part of the game, then I don't even know what to say. I think this team could be fantastic because then they control the line of scrimmage. They control time possession. That was one thing that hurt them early in the game. Their defense on the field for 11 of the first 15 or 16 minutes. Illinois had that quick drive, and then Nebraska just had the ball. The defense was just on the field for I think it was 11 of the first 16 minutes. So that wears you down a little bit.
You know what? When there was about 8 minutes to go in the game, I thought, okay, Brett Bielema's not giving this ball back because they've done that a lot. He's done a really, really good job of, I shouldn't say Brett Bielema, should be Barry Lonnie Jr. I like their offense. They'll run it and they'll throw it. They throw the out route patterns, which I think is great. It's hard to defend. And, I don't remember which one of you guys mentioned Luke Altmaier. I get the fact that, Dylan's the next Patrick Mahomes, whatever, but you got to give, Luke some credit, and I know my kids get mad at me when I say this because I'm bad luck, but this kid hadn't thrown an interception all year. He went on the road in a hostile environment, and I'm sorry, Mike, I know he hasn't done it in a hostile environment, 90,000, and he was solid. He was just, and it's time to give him his credit, and he's grown. If you guys think about what he looked like last year compared to where he is right now, he's just a different cat. He looks totally different. He's calm, and the players really believe in him. I don't know the status of Franklin. It was good to see Malik Elsie get in to make a big catch. So, Colin Dixon is tough too. You talk about a kid that's making plays. There's some talent there, and Brett Bielema just mentioned he's going to call a bunch of high-profile recruits tomorrow after this game. So that's why it's important to win these games, because now you can do that.
And I keep thinking to myself, when you look at the defenses that Brett Bielema has been associated with over his time, either as a defensive coordinator or as a head coach, why you wouldn't want to be a part of that? Because he is as consistent as death and taxes in terms of putting out a good defense. And what would happen if he had 5 or 6 5-stars on that defense? I keep looking at that and thinking, just how good could he be with Ohio State talent or something like that? Because the man, when he coaches, him and his coordinators, they put out a product come what or high water. Brad?
So I wonder about that, because I was thinking about that. I'm not sure it would matter. And here's why. Illinois is now 7-3 in games that are decided by a touchdown or less. They are great at winning close games, but they don't blow people out. They don't play a style that's going to blow people out. So they have all these close games they have to find a way to win at the end, which is great because they're competitive, but they don't really they don't step on the throat of people very often. So this is a different animal. I think Brett Bielema would that happen? Maybe he would if he had Ohio State talent. But if you're just going to, run the ball over and over and over and not really throw it downfield a lot, I don't know how you blow people out. You know what I mean? So you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that would correlate, but he'd win more close games than he even does now. But think about that. 7-3 in their last 10 games decided by a touchdown or less. That's that is a testament to his coaching.
And it's his philosophy. I mean, for me, I can't speak for everyone else. I'm like, man, throw it down the field just a couple times. I mean, just to see, but it's not what they do. And he's a master. I mean, if you guys remember a couple of years ago, I think it was against Nebraska. They held the ball for like 9 minutes or something like that, to win the game. He's just really, really good at doing it. I mean, people were texting me and calling me during the game. I'm like, I can't talk to you because I know what's going to happen. And, but then the turnover happened with Luke, but he learned from it. I'll tell you what, I think he's dodged a few bullets with that because he runs with the ball out quite a bit, and this is a learning experience for him. I give the Nebraska fans credit. I know they weren't sold on Illinois to begin with, and now you see all the positive stuff about Brett Bielema and his record and what he's done. Again, we're just talking football. This is a football podcast, but Josh Whitman has hired some really good coaches. I mean, these teams are competitive. Illinois, I just don't see a team beating them 63-0. I mean, I'm not saying it won't happen, but every year they get better talent. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, I look at this and I just say, basically, Brett Bielema kind of plays the type of ball that Lovie Smith played in the NFL, where you keep them close, you don't lose the big game, and then you have a chance to win it at the end of every game. And I will say that I keep thinking as the line gets better offensively, we'll see a little bit more, coming from that Illini team. But I do think right now, as I look at what this team has got on the table, you're looking at a team now that with going 4-0, and Brad talked about this, is really probably going to be favored in the vast majority of these games, aside from Penn State, Oregon, and then we don't know where Michigan is going to be at that time,
Yeah, but 5 of the 8 they should be favored for sure.
Yeah, and think about this though. Rutgers has a cupcake schedule. That could be yet another big game for Illinois down the stretch that would be that could really matter. And you can go, people have postulated that 10-2 could get you into the playoff. And Illinois can look at this, and if you beat the teams you're supposed to, and you maybe pull an upset on Iowa, or excuse me, on Penn State or Oregon.
Here's the thing: if they win at Penn State next week, beating Michigan isn't an upset. Then,
right?
You're staring 11-1 in the face, and a top 12 berth. I mean, I know we're way ahead of ourselves here,
but that's what we do.
That's what we're supposed to do, right? I mean, as the coaches, they got to focus on Penn State, but we can talk about all the other stuff because it doesn't affect anything. But I seriously though, this is a team that they have a schedule that sets up really well for them. Play Penn State, but then you get a week off, kind of regroup. Then you got Purdue and Michigan. I mean, they really have opportunities there for them to do well, to win 8, 9, 10 games. And I, yes, we're talking, we'd get outlandish, say top 10, top 12, whatever. But if this team wins 8, 9, 10 games, think about what that boost in recruiting is. So that means 2 out of the last 3 years win 8, 9, 10 games. Man, you're become a program that matters. It's going to sell more tickets. It's going to increase their NIL funds. It's going to make it easier to get guys in the portal when you need them. You're going to get higher ranked recruits. Everything goes well when this happens. Brett Bielema has really put this program on solid footing if they can just take care of business the rest of the season.
At this point, you know what? It would be nice for them to get 8 or 9 wins. Just go to a bowl game. I mean, that's, huge and big in recruiting. High school recruiting is good. I know Brett likes to develop, but me, I like the transfer portal right now. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that because I think it's a game changer. You look at the transfer portal right now and look at the guys that are key players for Illinois right now, with their linemen, and then you look at Luke Altmaier and Franklin. Those are guys that you wouldn't have if you didn't have a transfer portal that are older guys. So I like that. I think that's huge. But to me, just from a recruiting standpoint, I'm really curious. I'm going to call a couple guys tomorrow to see what their thoughts are on the game. I know a lot of them talk about
call Nate Marshall. See if he wants to reconsider.
It's going to be nice, though. I'm really excited to see how that plays out. But,
and I think Jason's thinking like Brad. The Ducks aren't that good. Let's just go out there and beat them.
You know what? But in fairness, I mean, going into the season, we all thought Oregon was going to be just world beaters, and they're beatable. I mean, they just are. And I tell you what, I can assure you, Illinois got Penn State's attention tonight. I can assure you that.
Yeah, I totally agree. They got their attention. And look, they just a couple of years ago, Illinois beat them. So there's got to be a way, if you're Penn State and you're like, well, we lost to Brandon Peters, we could lose to Luke Altmaier. And I have to say that when you look at the overall stats this game, when you see the fact that you had 9 different guys catch the ball. You had 5 different guys rush the ball, or 4. Let's take Luke out of the mix there. But you're in this zone where it's like the whole team effort. And then this ability, we talked about this in the press box last year. The 3 of us were more sold on the defensive backs physically than anybody else. Most of the people are like, oh, the defensive backs are bad. But we were like, yeah, they're inexperienced. I don't know if I would say they were bad, but they certainly had the potential, which, as Harry Carey used to say, potential means you haven't done doo-doo yet. So they had the physical potential to be good, and we're seeing the development of these players. From a recruiting standpoint, I am really trying to understand, like, if I'm a player and I want to go to the NFL and I see the progression of guys going from here to here under the Illini coaching staff, I start thinking about, well, maybe I go to Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, this is they have a system that's going to work, right? I mean, Brett Bielema has proven he can do this in the Big Ten, and I think they can recruit really well. And as we all know, it's DBU right now with you got guys performing really well in the NFL, but then they're going to put offensive linemen. Brett Bielema's going to have offensive linemen, defensive linemen, putting those guys in the NFL and they're performing. It's like, wait a second, I can do well. And then you got a quarterback like Altmaier who's having a great year. You've put wide receivers like Pat Bryant is going to. I mean, you see this now. You're starting to. It helps in recruiting. It's like now he's got something they can sell. Say, here's what we've done. We didn't able to do this. I think like, Brad Underwood had this in basketball when, after the 1 seed, Io goes to the NBA now. So many guys like, oh, now we get Terrence Shannon first round. These guys are wanting to come play here now. These elite guys in the portal, European dudes, whoever it is, it's the same thing. This is. I think this is the same thing. And this is the same situation. Brett Bielema has developed this. And with the increased NIL, now guess what? You can bring in more guys in the portal.
Well, the portal, like I said to you, it's huge for me. And I know, like I just mentioned earlier, I don't want to repeat myself, but Coach Bielema is definitely going to be in, with the recruits. And that's the future of the program. I mean, and why not Illinois? I mean, they're in the Big Ten. They have nice facilities, a great fan base. Now, I'll tell you what. Can you imagine what it's going to be like if they go and win at Penn State? What Memorial Stadium will look like now if they go there? Because I know they're going to be competitive, but just the fact that they go there and then they come back 5-0, boy, that'll be amazing.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, even at 4-1. If you're 4-1 and you've beat 2 teams ranked in the top 25, and maybe you had a close game on the road to a top 10 team, that's hard to feel bad about. But I'm constantly impressed by what this team does. And again, Brett Bielema is a guy who is a good football coach. I know sometimes it's not like the sexiest thing in the world, but he goes out and he recruits players that fit his system. And I've said for years that I think, as a guy who's hired people for decades, I think what Bill Belichick does better than any coach is he knows for every position what he needs for success. And then he just goes out and he finds it. He goes, well, I need a defensive tackle who can do this. And this big, this strong. And then he gets them. And I think Bielema sometimes does that. And I think that's where he confounds some of the ratings analysts who go, oh, that guy's not that good. Well, Brett Bielema knows what he needs for his positions, and he pulls a guy out and he gets him, and he does. I think the best example of that, or not the best, but one of them this year, look at Colin Dixon. A guy that when he was recruited, how many people were excited? Colin Dixon. Oh, he's pretty good. Looks like he's good. We'll see how he does. This kid has just done nothing but perform and develop, and makes and his play and his dedication in the offseason to get bigger, stronger, and faster has made Brett Bielema look like he had a crystal ball.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. And then how about the the interception by Cox? How about Cox? I mean, Cox has been fantastic. Now, I talked about that. I got to toot my own horn there. I liked him.
Yes, you did.
I talked about him preseason because I think although he's small, he has great cover skills, and you saw that on display. Now, the one guy jumped over him the one time. He was standing there, looked like a little kid batting at the ball, when you're holding it up. But he also makes the play on the ball in the end zone, makes that thing. This is the kind of guy that he goes out and gets, says, I need a guy to maybe be a nickel coverage guy. Here's my guy. Maybe he's a 60, but he can come in and he can cover a guy man-to-man. And you notice all their DBs can cover man-to-man. Bailey, even as a safety, can cover dudes man-to-man. And you saw him do a great job in coverage. So that's what they did. They recruit to their system. There's something, it's a system. They have a system. And that's why they're successful.
I like Lee's comment. I mean, Barry Lundy came through in the end. They're really good in the red zone, fellas. I mean, I know we've talked about that. They are really good. I feel really confident once they get down there. They do a lot of misdirections. I mean, they're really good. And like we just mentioned also with Ann Henry, to give up 28 points, whatever it was on the road, 24 points on the road in a hostile environment like that, I'll take that. I mean, just the coaching stuff. I know we talk about Brett a lot, but we also have to give the assistant coaches credit because they are out there in the trenches and doing it, and working their behinds off as well. It's just nice to see the fans get excited about Illinois football again. I'm curious to see what the national media will start to look like. And, when you listen to some of the talk shows, you're going to start talking about Illinois football again. But what you will hear, they're going to say we're not surprised because it's Brett. Brett has been really successful. And the people who know and follow him know how good he's been as a coach.
Ken, I got to piggyback on that. This game also, you talk about national media. This game was the game on TV. Think about how many guys, guys that I follow, national guys and guys that I interact with on Twitter. So many guys talking about this game. What a great game was. Talking about Illinois, talking about this. All that stuff, it just creates just so much excitement and so much energy and so much interest in your program. And recruits notice these things.
I totally agree. I totally agree about that. And I do think, in the red zone, I got to be honest with you, it drives me nuts on a fourth down when you have the 4th down and 2 and you have the quarterback back in the shotgun. And so that was the great play. If there had been a camera on me when that 4th down and 2, I'm like, oh, great. They got him in the shotgun. I hate this. Touchdown. So, it works. And Lunny is just, he is really been pressing the right buttons right now. And I do think, with all the things that are going on, it was really nice to see this team overcome the face mask, overcome a really tough, a couple tough plays here and there that in the past might have had an Illinois team crumbling. And no more has that been the case. And I just think this team has a possibility. And I think even the coaching staff may have developed maybe I don't think Brett Bielema was as mad about some calls that weren't really good. I don't think he got as upset about that. And I don't think his team focused on that as much. So, I mean, even in terms of as a coach, I think there's a developmental difference. And I think maybe they're trying to raise the bar as much for themselves as they are for the players.
Yeah, and Mike, you mentioned that. I think that some of that too. Brett Bielema knows his team can overcome a bad call or or something or whatever, something goes against
A
him.
turnover or mistake.
I don't think he did. I think he
Right.
got so upset because I don't think a couple of years ago he thought they could overcome that. He's like, oh crap, that first
Yeah.
year. Remember, he's always on the officials that first year. Always were, because a bad call could totally wreck the game, right? Now it's like, okay, we get the face mask call. He's on the official, but then we move on because we know we can score. We know we can do things, and so that's a big difference, I think.
Frank mentioned the face mask that Brad talked about earlier. That was huge. I don't know how you missed something like that. It wasn't like he was being tackled. I mean, it was clearly out in the open. I mean, that could have been a game changer. I mean, luckily it didn't kill him, but basically, in a nutshell, and there were some calls tonight that I finally thought that went Illinois' way. Like I said, at the end of the game, if I'm an official, I'm throwing the flag, and I think maybe they didn't throw the flag was probably because of the time on the clock. Another thing, Nebraska's receivers are huge. They're really tall. They have, I've heard a lot about their recruiting and talent. They've got some dudes, man. I mean, really, really tall and big guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I tell you, I know you guys, Brad, you got to be over in Indiana early tomorrow. Wanted to kind of start a wrap up, but I will make a appeal out to folks. If you're listening to this either on podcast or on YouTube later on, or you're here live on YouTube or Twitter right now. First thing is thank you for listening. We appreciate it. If you enjoy this stuff, please go to IlliniGuys.com, our website. If you join there for only 27 cents a day, you get all our articles, all our videos, everything. But the most important thing you get is we have message boards. And in those message boards, you can talk to other Illini fans. There's varying degree of crazy out there. And you can also talk directly to Brad or Ked or Matt Stevens or myself or Larry Smith. So not only do you get a chance to read articles or listen to us, but you get a chance to then ask the question, like, what do you mean by that? Or what do you think about this? And it's kind of an additional level for folks who think they know what's going on around Illini sports. Let me tell you something. You don't. The two guys who are on screen or on this podcast with me, they know. And so you get a chance to really experience a deeper level of that Illinois fandom. And I think that it's really worth looking for. And if you haven't listened to our podcast, besides maybe Eye on the Illini, we have the Illini Guy Sports Spectacular. That's our radio show. You can listen to that either on podcast, or you can go to our IlliniGuys.com, hit the radio button, and see all the stations, listen to it on the radio on a local station nearest you. And we also do a Big Ten show called Big Sports Radio. And you can get coverage of the whole Big Ten because we've all grown up being Big Ten fans for longer than we'd like to admit. So, you can get that on a podcast, or you can listen live as well there. Either way, we would love to have you. And of course, you can subscribe to our IlliniGuys.com channel on YouTube. And you can also go ahead and get and follow us on Twitter and get the latest information there as well. So with that, folks, we are going to call this one an evening. Thank you so much. And in a short period of time, I will get on with Matt Stevens. I don't know if we're going to do it live like this or not, but one way or the other, there will be a podcast with Matt. He is right now talking to the coaches and the players in the locker room. It gets to be a late night for us, but it'll be there for folks in the morning if you get up and you feel like, boy, it'd be really nice to go out to a restaurant. As I drive there, I'll listen to and relive some of this victory, because as you Illini fans know, these seasons that start off like this are rare. I think 1951 and 2011 are the last two times Illinois went 4-0. So I've experienced one, so it's good to make it to two.
Hey, did you guys know that they canceled class in Nebraska today because it was a 400 consecutive sellout? Did you guys see that?
Yeah. And I will throw one thing.
Hey, Ked, nothing personal. They get the same education in Nebraska whether they cancel class or not.
Well, and somebody had a comment that the Cornhusker fans were thought this would be a breeze. Now, I spent my time on at least 3 Cornhusker podcasts this week. Now, one of them with Caleb Henry. He's he's worked in his media credentials before.
Was
but
he
the
the guy
other
that
guy,
you had on as a guest, Mike?
yeah, he was a guy I had on
Okay,
Eye on the Illini.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I
preview.
listened to that today. And the one thing he said that
Blue
made me
bloods?
drive off the road was when he said that they're a blue blood in college football. Dude, 20 years ago you were. Not right now you're not. I mean, yes, they sell out. But when he said they're a blue blood in college football, no, I'm sorry.
But they're a little bit the Indiana of college football.
They're not a blue blood anymore. That's the past 20 years ago.
But their fan base is they have fan base support that is like unbelievable. I gotta be honest with you.
400 consecutive sellouts. Yep.
Yeah. I told him
he was talking about volleyball. They're
exactly.
a blue blood in volleyball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will tell you but he's cool. He understands this is going to be a good game. Now, the other two guys, when I told them I picked Illinois to win, they looked at me like I had a third eye right there. And I'm like, and I've just kind of shrugged my shoulders. But I tell you, this was a huge, huge night for the Illini. We really hope you enjoy our coverage. And we will be back, like I said, with another podcast and video. Just have to decide how live Matt wants to make it at 12:30 in the morning. So with that, folks, thank you very much. And we will have those. And then, of course, Monday night, we will have our Penn State preview with Mike Gross from the Lancaster paper out there. Until then, go Illini.